Hello, world. Feel like that's something I should say when I create my first program, like when I was back in high school. But here we are. It is September, and I'm very excited for our happy hour. Looking forward to seeing who joins me live today. Hopefully, we'll have some folks that will decide to come up on stage avec moi. That's about as much as I remember from my French class back in the day. If you are interested in coming up and being part of today's discussion, you can go to www.thelinkedbanker.com/happy hour. That will take you to a page. Scroll down, you'll be able to get to the actual live link that will provide you with the ability to sign in or access the Restream platform that I'm using today for this live stream. And would very much love it if you would like to come on and join me. So we're going to give it a little bit just to see who all would like to come and join the show today. So we'll just kind of throw a few things out there while we're waiting. Today's show is being recorded on the 24th anniversary of 9/11. I've been seeing a lot of posts out on social media talking about 9/11. Some posts from people that actually had loved ones that were killed in the incident, which is terrible. Fortunately, we weren't impacted to that extent, but like many of you watching this, I certainly remember where I was. We were out west with friends vacationing in Telluride, Colorado. Um, Not realizing that we were vacationing while I was riding bikes and horseback riding with a blown ACL in my right knee from a wakeboarding accident I suffered a week before, but said, screw it, still going to go and enjoy the vacation. So we were actually in Telluride, Colorado, up in the mountain village. And I remember waking up that morning, turning on the TV and opening up the curtains and looking at the mountains and seeing what I thought was a movie on television, and very surprised that what I was seeing was actually real. And this was way before the days of deep fakes and AI video that it could create something that isn't real, that makes it look like it's real. And so I remember calling our friends in their hotel room, and they were kind of still just getting up and said, "Hey, you guys need to turn on the TV and see what's going on here." And it was a pretty shocking sight with what was going on in the world, and just kind of surreal. Like, we couldn't believe it was happening. So, we kind of started the day. We were supposed to go on a horseback ride there in Telluride that day, and we ended up deciding that we would go, and we went. And the guide for our horseback ride actually lived in New York when the first World Trade Center Twin Towers was bombed, and kind of unsuccessfully, but certainly did some damage. And she said she wanted to just get the heck out of there. And so she sold everything, and within a couple of weeks had just completely left New York and went west, and had been just doing odd jobs and doing stuff out in Colorado in the mountains, and decided that that's where she was going to go. And so she told stories of what happened when that first incident took place. And it was an unfortunate history lesson for us all, but just kind of a perspective that not necessarily you want to be thinking about, but it is what it is. Um, so hopefully you are someplace obviously much safer now, and providing some remembrance of what happened at 9/11, and kind of being respectful to the day, but moving on. So, um, taking a look to see if anybody is out there to join live. You guys aren't going to make me be on stage all by myself, are you? So there's got to be some of you out watching this that have decided you would like to come up on stage. Just pop over to www.thelinkbanker.com /happy hour, and that will get you to the restream so you can jump in and be a part of the discussion today. So if you're not, let me go ahead here and see. So Neil, the link, yeah, if you go to www.thelinkedbanker.com/happy hour, that will get you to the page that will then provide a link to join the conversation live. So give that a shot and see if that works, if you would. So I am just going to pop over to that on a separate monitor and just double check and make sure that that is still working. So yeah, you go to that page, you scroll down, and it says be part of the live show, join the conversation. You go ahead and click on that, and that way it will fire it up and you can join me in today's discussion. So let's, what I might do, let me see if there's a way I can actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop over to the event on LinkedIn, and I am actually going to post the link directly into the comments on the post on LinkedIn as well. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there, and you can go ahead and hop up and join. But it looks like Neil is here. There we go. It must have worked, my friend.
Yes, good.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Good. How did your meeting go today, by the way? Or have you not had that yet?
Haven't had the meeting that you're referring to yet today, but Eric, I am so pleased with your AI contribution to the meetings that I'm working on. We should probably tell the audience what we're conjuring up here. And
yeah, absolutely.
You want to introduce it, or shall I?
Well, first off, for those that might not know who you are, I mean, everybody shows up and they probably have an idea who I am, but tell the world who Neil Stanley is and why we should give a rip about you.
Well, that's a good question. My wife would like to know the answer to this thing as well. But I have been on a couple times here and really have always enjoyed these happy hours. I am a former banker, and I started my business called The Core Point back in 2010. So 16 years now of being a fintech guy. I didn't know what fintech was when I started my business, but we built tools that retail bankers use to negotiate with depositors. And I also, along the way, have started working with the Sheshnoff organization, where I am the leader of the Idea Exchange. So every fall and spring, we get a bunch of bankers together and we talk about things that are going on in their business. And of course, it evolves over time. I've been doing this for 5 years. And this fall, I've decided to go all in on using AI during the Idea Exchange. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, historically, we've not recorded the sessions. We just let people take notes and do whatever. And we've decided to use Otter AI to capture the ideas discussed. And I thought, well, that's good, but what else could I do? So I contact my friend Eric.
Who's that? What can we do? He sounds like a smart dude.
Yeah, that Eric is amazing. What could I do to make this impromptu discussion about ideas a little bit more dynamic, utilize AI? And Eric has produced a video with a whole bunch of supporting narrative and supporting documentation. And I actually just finished watching it. But folks, you all know Eric, so you're not going to be surprised at this, but I'm going to have to figure out ways of getting all of his content in the hands of the bankers without having them sit there and listen to just a video of me sitting there watching the video. So we'll figure it out. But so many great suggestions in there, and I don't know if you want to share it with this audience, but in that package. But folks, I've learned a lot about AI in the last basically 3 or 4 months using it as a fintech person. But some of the stuff that Eric tells me is like, okay, I don't know that. So I just keep advancing. So thank you for sharing that.
You are quite welcome. So the funny backstory on that, and hi, Rebecca, welcome to the stage. What's the name of your little furry friend there?
This is Buttons. She's
Buttons.
apparently wanting to learn about AI today.
My grandparents had a dog named Buttons, little white poodle. So very cool. A little flashback there.
Is she a Bashan?
She's Shih Tzu and Maltese. Actually, I've got 3 of them, 3 sisters from the same litter.
Oh
okay.
boy,
Very cool.
busy. Yeah. So what Neil didn't tell you in that, and thank you for the kind words, my friend, is first off, he said, "Hey, would you be willing to do like I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or so worth of AI stuff?" So the video ended up being 47 minutes long. Sorry. And the first time I did it, I was wearing a lapel mic and I thought I was going to be all fancy with audio. And unbeknownst to me, the battery apparently had expired. I recorded and it was actually longer than that. So I'm glad I got an opportunity to shorten it up a little bit for you. Not much. Um, did the whole recording, played it back just to make sure I listened to it to see that it was good. And there was no audio whatsoever. It was just me just with lots of great slides and lots of good stuff and me laughing at myself for my cheesy jokes, but it had no audio whatsoever. And I sent him, he's like, if you get it to me by the 11th, that'd be great. I think I clicked the send button at 1:27 a.m. this morning, after I checked it and made sure it was good to go. And I did fall asleep and I woke back up and I said, I want to make sure you have this when you get on in the morning. So, but yeah, I did say sorry that it is as long as it is, but I got on a roll and hopefully it'll spark some good dialogue. I think there's points in there where you can hit the pause button and engage them in some conversation and some discussion and weave in some of the things that you're doing. Cause I know you're leaning into AI and using it to help connect and educate and teach your bankers. But getting a room full of CEOs, how many folks are going to be part of this idea exchange that you're going to be able to reach during your discussion?
Yeah, so we do groups anywhere from 10 to 16 in individual groups, but at each venue, there'll be 2 or 3 groups. So over the course of the fall, I'm going to have probably 9 sessions with 10 to 15 people each. So yeah,
awesome.
There'll be a lot of people looking at your video, sir. So
going, does this guy ever shut up? It's 47 minutes long. OMG. So, oh, cool. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that it worked out, and I wanted to make sure I got that done because I'm going to be a little bit out of pocket next week with some travel and some other stuff. So
I can just see now somebody saying, "Hey, that Notebook LM, could we use that to reduce this down and just have like a podcast of 2 or 3 minutes of this?"
Oh, and you could. I figured if I couldn't get it to work with me doing it like the normal way, I was just going to do a transcription inside of 11 Labs and let Baby Eric take over, and just Baby Eric would just do the presentation. So,
oh, I love Baby Eric.
I was going to fall back on that, but it is what it is. So
I'm guessing everybody on the audience knows Baby Eric, right?
I don't know if they do. I don't know, Rebecca. You've seen Baby Eric, right? Yeah, I did a Baby Eric. Somebody said, why doesn't Baby Eric have a beard? And I said, because babies don't have beards. And I generated a version of Baby Eric with a beard, and that will never see the light of day. Super creepy, super weird. Just not the type of it certainly would stop the scroll, but it's definitely not the type of scroll stopping that you would want. You'd look at it and go, train wreck, move on, keep going.
I mean, for next month, you should do it just as like a Halloween costume. She's got the glasses and the beard.
I should do that. I mean, you've given me an inspiration now. I've got an idea where I could, dress Baby Eric up as a maybe I'll come as a Dracula. That was one of my favorites when I was a kid. So,
or an adult Eric.
Or an adult Eric. Well, then it would just be me, really. Or I guess Baby Eric as adult Eric.
There you go.
Yeah, that's kind of like warping the time-space continuum, but could be what it is. So, but I guess since you've got the mic and you're on stage with us, welcome. So Neil gave an intro, I think, while you were hopping on. So tell the world a little bit about yourself, and do you have anything in particular that you would like to chat about, Rebecca?
Yeah, so I've known Eric for a good while. We met at a conference, I think, and we just keep running into each other all the time. But anyhow, yeah, just passionate about all things AI, pretty much. It's an addiction at this point, I think. I do digital strategy and marketing in fintech space. So therefore, my connection with Eric. And yeah, it's just it's been a lot of fun. I'm finding that there's tons and tons of opportunities just to educate people and
Absolutely.
discuss options, for them to use it in their business and stuff. And it's really interesting because there seems to be kind of this fear of even trying it, um, which kind of blows my mind since we all use it every day to do like everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to have those conversations. And one thing that I've done since we met last, Eric, was I started a weekly open forum every Tuesday morning for the company. And I did it honestly, kind of selfishly, because people kept calling me and asking me AI questions. And I'm like, I've got to get all this stuff done, but I keep getting interrupted with this stuff, which I love talking about, but I have other things to do. So I was like,
Absolutely.
I need to figure out a way that, I can help people, and it just kind of become part of my day. And so anyhow, we started that. And surprisingly, we've had pretty good turnout. People are excited about it and they jump in, they kind of come and go as they need to, whatever. But it's been fun. I try to come in with, one or two things that maybe it's something new or maybe they haven't considered, or I've been writing like a lot of, custom GPTs or agents or whatever for the company. And so I'll release those and kind of explain how to use them. Um,
Nice.
so anyhow, but then they're coming in with some really, they're starting to catch on, right? And so we've got some people that come in with some really fun ideas or ways that they're applying it that I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good plan. So it's kind of fun to hear how different people are using it within the organization in different roles. And yeah, I was like, hey, I can't miss this. I got to join for at least a half hour or so because I always learn something from you
That's
guys. So
awesome.
here we are.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And as am I, we're joining the world from out of doors, taking advantage of some nice
Okay.
weather up here in northern Michigan. It's beautiful. We've had just an amazing week. I've been home for a little bit. I hit the road and head to Alabama next week to do an event for the Alabama bankers, and I'm betting it's going to be a little warmer down there, but that's
It,
okay.
it is. I'm not
But
in Alabama, but
yeah,
just about.
yeah. So anyway,
So
cool.
one more
Well,
thing on the AI topic
yeah.
that I think you'll chuckle about.
Yes, sir.
So I was talking to my colleagues at Sheshnoff about how I was going to incorporate the work that Eric's done to add to my idea exchange. And I got this kind of pause and they said, well, we don't want it to be repetitive. And I'm thinking to myself, in the world of AI, there is no way they're going to go, oh yeah, we've seen this already today. We can check the box because we just saw a presentation on the exact same thing. There is no way that what Eric just presented, somebody else is going to do the exact same thing. It's just such a broad topic. And I just
Yeah.
chuckled at how they thought, well, if you got 45 minutes from this one, then you've really covered the topic. So not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm like, it is a huge world, folks.
I mean,
There's
and
so
what
much
Eric
to it.
teaches one week, he could teach the same thing next week, and there's already new developments. So it's just like you never run out of content to talk about.
No.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because some of the screenshots I noticed when I was going through your session and recording it at the wee hours of the night yesterday, um, the Notebook LM interface has changed. And I was in Notebook LM today and it changed again, but it changed back. But I got a screenshot of it. And there is some super cool stuff coming to Notebook LM. Oh my gosh. I created a blog post just with one click and I sent it to my coach. Because she knows me pretty darn well at this point. We've been working together for a couple of years. And I sent it to her and I said, hey, what do you think of this? And she was like, amazing, really good. And early on, we would create articles and content through AI and you'd be like, it kind of sounds robotic, doesn't sound, but there's some prompting that you can do. And man, it was kicking out some really, really cool stuff. I've jumped back in to try a couple of other options and I got a red bar that says we're experiencing technical issues and delays. Functionality might be limited. So I think I might have caught a sneak peek kind of behind the curtain, or they didn't realize the door wasn't locked and I got in. So rarely does that happen, but I'm pretty excited with some of the stuff that's showing up with Notebook LM. It's always a blessing and a curse though, Because just when you deliver slide decks or information for a bank school, and they of course want to have that information a month ahead of time because they got to print everything and get it organized, and then you roll up and you're like, well, that's outdated and that doesn't exist anymore, and this is not as good as it used to be, but this is even better, but I didn't even talk about that because it didn't exist or I didn't know about it 30 days ago. So it's a perpetual treadmill of learning, but that's what it's all about. If you don't like that, then this is probably not the conversation you're comfortable having. So it is what it is.
And along the same lines, I was talking about doing presentations, and somebody said, "Well, Neil has an advantage because his presentations are all about interest rates and the market." And so every day he's got new content because the market is moving every day. So he doesn't have to go redesign stuff. He just kind of analyzes the market. And I go, yeah, that's probably pretty true, is that the market itself creates a dynamic that you can look at the exact same format, but the nuance of it is, well, what's relevant right now? It's not just the same data over and over. It's what's becoming more and more relevant. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yep. Absolutely. So cool. Well, let's for a brief moment at least. I started off kind of buying some time before I had some friends to come up on stage. I'm wondering, I shared the story of where I was when 9/11 hit 24 years ago. We were in the mountains of Telluride, Colorado with friends vacationing. Either one of you have a 9/11 story or a memory that you'd like to share, just kind of in homage to the magnitude of what happened 24 years ago?
My story's not too particularly exciting, other than that I had a flight that morning on 9/11 that I went to work. My flight was like at 11 o'clock. So I went to work early, and then I was going to come home, pick up my wife, and we were going to fly down to, I think it was Carolina. And obviously at work, I decided, nope, that flight's going to get canceled. And so I came home.
And you would be correct.
And, and then a bunch of our people were doing due diligence on a bank in Illinois. We were buying a bank in Illinois, and they couldn't get home other than driving home. So those were trivial inconveniences in light of the big picture. But yeah, it did rock the world for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Rebecca? Anything in particular stick in your mind?
I was actually teaching high school math at the time in Indianapolis, and I was on my work hour, I guess it is, whatever, that prep hour. And I was going down the stairs, going down to the office to pick up my mail and stuff like that for the day. And I met somebody coming up the stairs and said, "Have you heard?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" So we ran and got, the carts that have the big TV on the top. We rolled that into, I think it was an economics class or something like that. There were a bunch of students in there. We rolled it in there and turned it on. And sure enough, we turned it on just as the second hit came. Mm-hmm. And that was a crazy, crazy day. The whole day at the high school was just completely shut down. And it was really interesting to be with that age group during that time, having never experienced anything, to that magnitude. Not that any of us had, but I'm thinking in my life, I remember when the Challenger exploded and big news events where like the TVs come into the room and everybody's
just thinking of the Challenger.
So it was really interesting to be with, the 9th through 12th graders and see their take on it and how they responded to it. And then I think, what really kind of blew my mind was at the immediate afterwards, right? How there was just so much unity, everybody coming together, whether it was a vigil or a church service or whatever they did that evening. I mean, it was like the whole world just shut down, and everybody came together in unity. And that was like probably one of the strongest feelings I think I've ever felt in our country, really, in my lifetime anyway, of everybody just being so unified.
Yeah. And it's sad to think that something of that magnitude is what was the catalyst to bring us all together. And I don't know as if we've been as close. Certainly there is a lot of division, and I am not going to take our happy hour down a political avenue, because that's the last thing that I want to do. But that I do remember that as well as being such a connected feeling, and just kind of the, how do we all get past this? And
And it
yeah,
was like the whole world
that's a
just slowed down,
really good point.
like in America, we're just
Yeah,
going, 100 miles an hour all the time. And it was like everybody was more peaceful. Everybody was more patient. It was like more
Yeah.
understanding. It was just, it was a very interesting feeling. On
Guys,
one
yep,
hand, you felt horrible. And on the other hand, you felt like you were just among family everywhere you went.
that was the word I was going
yeah,
to use. I went to a McDonald's where I didn't know anybody, but it did felt like I was invited there. I was welcome, and that family feeling that you don't, even think about otherwise. And it's like everybody was on the same page. We're all
yep,
feeling the same feelings. Yeah, it was very memorable.
yeah. We've got a comment from one of our audience members. Thank you, Dana. A brand new student at Murray State walking through student center, hundreds of students smushed into the side room with a big TV. So may or may not have been on one of those rolling carts, like Rebecca mentioned. I remember those because I got in trouble one time. I pushed it from the wrong direction. You always had to push it on the skinny side. And if you pushed it on the fat side, you had the risk of knocking it over. Luckily, that didn't happen. But yeah, I was at that point and moving forward a very experienced media cart pusher in high school. So, but thank you very much for sharing that. So, um, so shifting gears a little bit outside of the world of AI, I wanted to, and I was kind of hoping that Jack would show up today, but no such luck. He might be on the golf course. Um, but I wanted to share last month, Jack and I actually were hosted by the folks over at Bank Marketing Center, um, Neil Reynolds and his crew. And so they are endorsed by, I don't know, 18 or 20 state banking associations around the country. And so they get to do webinars. And Neil and I met a few years ago down at the Financial Brand Forum and hit it off, developed a little bromance, as it were. But we really enjoy chatting and hanging out and just talking about things. And so I've had the pleasure of doing webinars for Bank Marketing Center now for probably almost a year, every quarter or so. And Jack and I got to team up and we put together a webinar on smarketing, the blending of sales and marketing. And I can't think of anybody better in the industry from just a sales perspective than Jack Hubbard. Been doing it for 50 plus years. Just he reads a sales book a week. I read one maybe like once a year. And so the guy's a machine,
You
and
don't have to admit that,
just,
Eric.
yeah, well, I'm transparent. I gotta, I do lots of other stuff. I mean, I'm a rabid podcast listener and I'm watching videos all the time. And, when I doom scroll on TikTok, it's all digital marketing and social media and AI stuff. So I think that kind of counts, but maybe not. But Jack and I had a really, really fun time on the webinar, and we've recorded it and we've got it on our website. So if anybody is interested in checking that or any of the other websites that we've done with the Bank Marketing Center folks, you can hop over to our website under our resources section and webinars, and then you can get access to the webinar that we've got with Jack. And that was a lot of fun because he shared some really interesting sales tactics that go beyond just cheeky AI stuff, different ways to connect and engage in your follow-up practice. And at the end of the day, we both talked a lot about keeping it human and making sure the banker shows up, not just someone that's part of the bank. Because when you do that and you think of yourself as an employee, you kind of lose that personal connection. And I had a really nice compliment from Martha Bartlett that normally she's here, but she had another event. She posted something on LinkedIn, speaking of branding, and she had a picture of a company that sent her return labels. You remember you get those every once in a while, and it's got your name and your address pre-printed on them, and it's just like your little gift. Well, she posted it, and it was like Christmas return labels, and one of the pictures was a collection of golden retriever puppies around a little red fire engine with bows on. And of course, it hit my algorithm because I follow Martha and I love the stuff she talks about. But the golden retriever just completely stopped my scroll, and I commented on it. And then after I commented, I went down and I looked, and she had already tagged me on that post. And it was kind of the whole golden retriever, the dog thing. You know, I'm kind of known for that. I'm kind of known for the AI and being a recovering banker. And so how do you lean into that you want to be known for and be comfortable with having that be part of your personality? And so if smarketing is of interest to you at all, I would really just encourage you to go check out that webinar. And Bank Marketing Center's got some cool tools that we talked about there as well with their Social Plus platform that are also, I think, pretty neat. But that was a lot of fun. And publicly, Jack, you probably see this on a replay, but I again want to thank you for partnering up and for being part of that discussion. That was a really enjoyable hour of my day, as they all are when I get to spend them with you. So that was a lot of fun. So what else is on your mind? What else are you guys thinking about that we want to talk about today?
Well, one thing that I've been doing is tuning people into this happy hour who are being displaced by M&A activity or various transitions. And so
I'm glad you didn't say displaced by AI activity. I mean, M&A activity, any displacement is bad, but yeah. So
yeah, the industry is going to go through a lot of change. I did a webinar this summer where we talked about, what's on the agenda for banking in 2025. And we talked about a lot of things that we're talking about here. And I kind of ended it with, and if that has you all fired up, you're in a good spot, because we can make such a difference in our industry by bringing value to people that it goes beyond what we ever dreamed of before. But if you're in the mode of saying, hey, I really don't want to participate, I would advise you to get out of the industry now. Because if you languish with the playbook from 1990s in today's environment, your franchise value is going to go down. It's not going to go up. So either embrace it or move on. And this is seminar season. The conferences are all just picking up. I know Finovate, some of my team members were there at New York, and all these meetings. And this is going to be the time. I think the season is going to be really interesting for all the conferences, because what we're talking about, and the interest rate dynamic, the political environment, there's the regulatory environment, it's the most exciting time. Now, you might not say excitement is good. I'm not saying it's all good excitement, but it's the most exciting time since I started banking in 1984. I've never seen it so exciting. And I look at it as positive, but I can understand where some people would say it's not so exciting. But that's my take on it.
I agree. Yeah, I was looking at my calendar for the remainder of the year, and for at least a day or two, for pretty much the foreseeable end of 25, I'm on the road. Sometimes it's a drive, sometimes it's a flight, but yeah, it's picking back up for sure. So, but I enjoy that. I get energy from being around other people. I get energy from these types of conversations, hearing what people are talking about. So I enjoy it. My problem is when I come home, it's sometimes so draining. I want to keep the momentum going, and I run out of steam, and I'm having things in my life happen that are reminding me you're not in your early 30s anymore. You need to be respectful of the 50 plus that exists on your driver's license. So mortality is a bitch. We're just gonna say that
You just need to
outright.
schedule in a little recovery time after every trip.
Exactly. And I think even if it's just kind of chilling on the beach for an extra day wherever I'm at and going through my notes and digesting the information, I think that's maybe one of the things that, as you all go into conference season, to your point, Rebecca, is, blocking out a few days so that you don't just jump right in back into appointments, because learning and knowledge, and that's why I double down on Notebook LM and some of the other platforms that help you learn. Knowledge is power. And we've Rebecca, we both been to social media marketing world and notorious for coming back from San Diego and jumping right back into it, and then coming back 6 months later and looking at my notes and going, "Oh, I didn't take action on that. I didn't take action on that. I didn't take action on that." So being more intentional for sure. So I will take my own advice, and October with the marketing AI conference, the Maycon event with the Marketing AI Institute up in Cleveland. Going to start blocking some stuff out right now because that's going to be a fire hose of all sorts of AI goodies that I can't wait.
Create yourself a post conference agent. Upload all of your information and then have it, send you your action plans for weeks afterwards.
Yes, yeah. Give me little nuggets every
right.
week of things that I need to do as part of my post.
Flashcards or
Yeah,
something.
there you go. Yep, yeah. That's very cool. Great idea. Cool. I love it. I love it. So, anything else on your mind, Rebecca?
No, I do have a question though, probably for the two of you, and if there's anybody else on that wants to chime in. So I'm curious, financial institutions, I'm curious what you're finding as far as AI tool adoption. Do you find that most companies are choosing one and just sticking with it and kind of like putting all of their resource and stuff in it? Or do you see it split across, multiple? What are you seeing since you're in so many different institutions?
Yeah.
What's kind of happening out there for that?
Yeah. Good question. So for those that are watching live, but maybe you're not up on stage, if you'd like to come on stage and be part of that and answer Rebecca, like with your camera on, feel free, or you can go ahead and just toss your chat and your comment directly into whatever platform. I know we're on LinkedIn and we're on YouTube and we're on Facebook. So feel free to go ahead and throw it in there. But I mean, Neil, I'll let you go, and then I've got some ideas. But what
this is like
are you when you're?
I'm the Padawan here. You're the master. Why?
All right, let me get on my lightsaber. Hold on just a second.
I can even see I'm turning red, thinking
it's the cost of being on stage. You just have to do it.
Yep, exactly. So, I will tell you, and you know this. I think I put it in the slide presentation that you listened to. I think one of the questions that I ask is, what type of AI are you using right now? And I poll the audience and I say, are you using a free version? And I see a lot of hands go up, and those are typically the hands that are going up of the people that aren't using it at work because they're forbidden, but they've downloaded ChatGPT or some other platform on their phone, or they're using it on their computer, but they're just logging in and using the free version. The reminder of that with anything, if you're not paying for the service, you are the payment for the service. And we know that because of Facebook and social networking platforms. They're monetizing all of our data, and it just is what it is. And we're willingly doing that. But when you pay for a service, you are able to gain the benefit of possibly larger token windows or a bigger repository of information, or more that you can do with it, basically. And then sometimes those give you the option to say, I don't want my information to use to be training the model. I don't want my memory functionality. I don't want you to remember stuff. So there are some additional layers of protection there. So some people are choosing to pay for their own personal accounts out of their own pocket. They're shelling out $20 a month for whatever AI tool that they would like to use because they want that extra level of capability. They've gotten into it. They realize the free version, they're bumping their head on the limits, and they're like, okay, for $20, sure, why not? But I will tell you, when the paid by the bank or the organization, most of the time that means that they have been given access to a Microsoft Copilot account. And the organization has gone into their Microsoft ecosystem, into 365, and they've licensed Copilot, and they've sent either everybody or a select few or a trial group or whatever you want to call it, and they've given them access to Copilot. And on one hand, that can be good because from a management perspective, IT can easily manage the licenses, they can issue, they can turn it off, they can control settings. There is greater likelihood of privacy and confidentiality because it's in your Microsoft tenant. So you've already got confidential customer information in your Excel on OneDrive and SharePoint and those sorts of areas. So if you have Copilot in those systems, you're part of the Microsoft fabric that could then potentially allow for you to use it across Word and PowerPoint and Outlook and all these other platforms. The downside to that is that Copilot still is probably the least powerful of all of the language models that are out there. And I'm not saying this because I want to dog on Microsoft, but the reality is they are using OpenAI's ChatGPT engine for a lot of what they do. Now, to their credit, when ChatGPT released version 5, GPT-5, they got access to it right away. There was a little box in my Copilot that said, hey, turn on ChatGPT-5, which was unusual because prior to that, anything that got released into ChatGPT was typically several months before it got introduced into the Copilot ecosystem. And even to this day, as of 9/11/25, if I were to go in and the three of us were part of the same organization on the same version of Outlook using the same calendaring system, find a 45-minute slot between Neil and Rebecca and Eric on our calendars so we can get together sometime in the next 2 weeks, Copilot's going to come back and say, sorry, I can't do that. And you would think that would be the no-brainer, most awesome case for meeting scheduling and being able to do that. And it pushes us back to having to send emails. Hey, Neil, when are you available? Okay, let me get with Rebecca, and then kind of doing the whole calendar, or using a third-party tool like a Doodle or some other calendaring that goes completely outside of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem to solve a function that Copilot should be able to do natively within the Microsoft platform. So I'll say it's mostly Copilot. There are instances for some of the more progressive banks where they have an AI group or an advisory council, and they are actually getting access to paid versions of AI tools that the bank is paying, and they're willing to let the marketing team use other services or compliance use other services, but they're under a different set of rules because they've gone through a different set of training and they're using the beta testing of all of those as well. So that is probably a really long-winded answer to your question. Um, but we just got to wait until we see Copilot get better. And the old adage, I say old because ChatGPT's not been around that long, but this is the worst version of AI we're ever going to have today. Tomorrow's going to be better. Next week's better. Next month's
I know
better.
you
Next
almost can't
quarter's
go to
better.
sleep because you're
So,
so excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow.
yeah, absolutely. So, Uncle Sean over at the Fed Fizz, do you see a difference in types of AI utilization based on the size of the institution? That's a great question, Sean. I think the bigger the institution is, there's a greater chance of the word division rolls into my head, and I don't know as if that's the right word, but I've seen more instances of large organizations pull the trigger on large licensing of Copilot and distribute those. And while you might see that that is a better approach and you've got greater adoption, the downside of that is now people have access to a tool that they have got zero training on. Because the third question that I ask is, how many of you work for an organization that has established an AI vision, a policy that you've shared with your employees, and you provided staff with training on how to use AI? And I'm seeing less than 5% of the audience hands go up. But a really interesting take on this that I heard on a planning call earlier today was, but when you ask the question, how many of you are actually using AI, everybody's hands go up, or almost everybody. But very few are in an organization where they've got a policy, a vision, and they've gotten training. They're figuring it out on their own. They're going out and they're watching YouTube videos, or maybe they're sitting in on conversations like this or picking people's brains, but they're not getting formal training. And so when you roll out a massive adoption, quote unquote, of Copilot because you bought a license, and then you ask them to use it, and then you come back in 6 months and go, okay, tell me how you're using Copilot. And people are like, I'm really not. It's because they don't know how to drive the car. I use the F1, IndyCar, race car. Everybody's driven a car, but very few people on the planet have hopped in the cockpit of a Formula One race car. And just because you've driven a car gives you no right to think that you know how to drive one of these things, because it's a completely different experience.
Yeah.
It's not going from a Yugo to a BMW. It's completely different.
I got to tell you, Eric, I have a little Miata. I live in North Georgia, so the roads are windy and fun. And so I try to go. I try to go every year to this Miata convention here, up just in North Carolina. And I went up there this year, and this guy had a 2019 Harley Orange Miata, and he's like, "You want to test drive it?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. We're at Tail of the Dragon. It's too dangerous. So I'll take you for a ride." Like, okay, we get in there, and he's like, "You should probably know that I have like 7 titles in racing." I was like, "Oh God, here we go." And he took off, and I was just like, "Oh my word!" I'm like, "You might want to slow down a little bit. I just had lunch." But it was so fun. And we got back, and he's like, "So what'd you think?" I'm like, "Well, one thing I know is I am way underutilizing the power of my Miata. That's for sure." I had no idea we could do this.
But that's a perfect example of somebody that is like, "Oh, I'm using it to craft an email so I don't sound like I'm angry."
Right.
And they think that's awesome because they can drive the windy roads. And then they get behind someone that's got titles and awards, and he really knows how to put the pedal to the metal. Then you're like, oh my gosh, this Miata, this Copilot, this GPT, whatever, amazing what the capabilities are.
I'm not in a bunch of institutions like you guys are, but just in my own experience, I would think that how a company is utilizing, like the level that they're utilizing AI, is probably a direct result of the people that are maybe bringing the innovation to them in-house. So to your point, if there's really nobody leading the charge, and nobody's got the vision cast, and nobody's got a plan in place for literacy, they're probably, barely turning the key on at this point, right? I mean, it's like, if you've got somebody in there with a true plan, just like anything, and you're in there and you're working on education and how to use it safely and responsibly, and this is what we're going to do as a team, and put together a true literacy plan, those are probably the people that are, I would venture to say nobody's really maximizing utilization of it. But
yeah. And I think I'm using 2 different terms. I'm using AI literacy, but I'm also using AI awareness or AI intuition, because I think there's one where you can know how to use the tools, so you understand a little bit better about how to prompt and to be a little bit more descriptive in what you're asking the technology to do, or how you can use it to be able to analyze data. But having that intuition of avoiding the default of going back to the way we've always done it, to be able to go, is there a way I can completely reinvent this process where it's not even the same question anymore? It's not even the same output. It's the output that I get when I do this, and then that leads to this, and then that leads to this. How can I do it where I just jump over all of that and get to the tail end?
It's literacy and AI literacy until that switch is flipped, and then it completely changes your philosophy on how you approach everything.
Exactly. So, Neil, you shared an interesting comment. I want to get you to mention that, if you would, please.
So one of the things in my career in banking is that I found it interesting that we have no budget for R&D. There's no research and development budget in a community bank. 0, right? So, well, big banks probably, like, I've never worked at a huge bank, but, worked at a fairly good sized one. And we would do things that were experiments. But the realization that in some industries, there are people, like in the oil industry, there's a wildcatter, and they're out there, they're doing stuff that nobody's authorizing, but they're going out and saying, hey, let's drill a well here and see if there's some oil here. Let's just go check it out. And it's kind of what I see in small banks is this wildcatter mentality of, well, we're not authorized to do this, but we're going to use this tool that we use in our personal lives and we're going to bring it into the bank. But we can't do it with any data because that's private. And we understand, but we're going to really understand some things because this is going to rock the world. And if we try to step out and just say, hey, we're not part of the AI world, we're in trouble. So I see this wildcatter mentality in the progressive people. It's not always just the young people, but it's somebody I've always said the best bankers are the curious people. Many bankers are not that curious. They were hired to follow rules and procedures, and they just don't have any curiosity. So I love it.
And they got rewarded for that for years.
Yeah, we
show up, do your job, follow the rules,
don't question,
go home, don't lose us any money, don't, and I get it, and
I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just saying it's an industry. If you have a whole bunch of rule followers, then how do you ever learn to do new things? Well, some people are going to, even if they're not authorized, they're going to go, hey, why don't we try this? And I happen to be one of those people. But anyway, you end up with experimentation, and then people go, well, duh, we should be doing this. And I think the big banks have designated certain areas to be the R&D, and the community banks have said, well, I don't know, we're going to be fast followers, which is really hard to do with AI. And keep up. But there are people in there. You never have progressive committees. I've never seen a committee that was, as a committee, progressive. I've seen individuals on committees that were progressive, but the committees are finding the lowest common denominator. Okay, we satisfy everybody, then okay, we're going to go forward. And so I think with AI, what's happening right now is you have those who have the curiosity and the stamina and the energy are going, wow, look at this. And then the other people are kind of sitting back going, well, just don't take us into dangerous territory. Okay. And that's kind of the environment that I'm observing.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great analogy. It also makes me think of the upcoming next season of Landman, which I'm pretty pumped about. So thank you for creating that little bit of FOMO until that shows up. So one other thing that triggered a thought in my brain, I've started seeing some research and some articles on how the older generation is best positioned to take advantage of the powers of AI, predominantly because I used this in a prior session. We can pass the sniff test. We know if technology is producing something, if AI is kicking out something that isn't right. And while that younger generation may have a better handle on the technology itself, they've got the skill sets to use it, and they know how to get it to produce an awesome report or write a research paper or do things that we've never even thought of. They don't have the business acumen and the experience and the longevity to know what it should be doing from a strategic perspective, and to know when it's kicking out stuff that is good that you can take further and then expand upon and dive into and elaborate, and when it needs to just be shut down and say, nope, you're going in the wrong direction, we need to regroup here and point it someplace else. And so for that reason, I think if you're watching this live or you're catching the recording and you're still here, it's the ability for that older generation that's been around for a few years to accept the fact that if you lean into this and you figure out how to embrace the technology side of things, it's going to give you a great advantage within your organization to be marketable, to be valuable. I think there's some cross-generational mentoring opportunities that we're going to be able to see come up. But just because you didn't grow up with AI, lean into all of that institutional knowledge and experience that you have, and then figure out how you can put an AI layer on top of that. I think that is going to be the recipe for success over the next several months, if not longer.
I work with a bunch of loan officers, right? The whole age gamut. And it's interesting because I think it's really the older group that is adopting and willing to try things
Yeah.
more. And I don't know if you follow Dharmesh with HubSpot or not. He's the CTO and co-founder.
Yep.
He I think it was at their inbound conference. He did a talk on you to the power of AI, and I love that concept because it is true. You have to like have some business understanding. While AI is
Oh
amazing,
yeah.
if you couple AI with a knowledgeable worker in their space, you're growing
Yep.
exponentially, right? But you just give somebody the Wild West tool that doesn't have any idea how to run the business, it's a totally different story. So I think that that's really where the big opportunity is. A lot of people are worried about job displacement and all that type of stuff, and is it going to happen? Probably, but I think if you learn and adopt the tools, just I mean, think about it. In our lifetime, I feel privileged that like we're probably similar, the same age, that we've been able to see everything from like pre-digital, really, all the way to where we are today, and it's just kind of mind blowing to see that much happened in that period of time. And
Yeah.
it's like I mean, you guys, I'm sure you remember people saying, "Oh, computers are going to take over the world." Yep. And if you don't know how to use one today, you're going to have a really hard time getting a job. And it's kind of what I
Yeah.
feel like. I think AI is, exponentially larger than having a computer in your home. But I think it's the same
Yeah.
concept, right? The principle stays the same. That just learn the technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you to the power of AI because it takes whatever you are and
Yeah.
amplifies that. And, if you are someone that, I hate to say it, there's a lot of students coming out of college that have just been really good prompters that are creating really good output. I mean, New York Times quality reports on things like the Spanish American War. But if you were to sit them down and grab a beer and go, tell me what really went on during the war, they wouldn't have a clue what
We'd have
is
to get
happening
AI.
for the most part. And they'd have to get their A out
Yeah.
and have a conversation
I,
about that. And that's,
I saw
yeah,
this
go ahead.
firsthand. I don't think, Eric, you know this, but my son launched a business in data analytics as a senior in college. He had $1 million contracts as a senior in college. His company was called Contemporary Analysis. You can still see it. But the challenge they had was they had no intuition about where the safe foundations were. Everything they thought through, he and his partner had to think about it like with no background knowledge. It was like, in theory, what would this look like? Well, in practice and theory, they're the same, but in practice, theory and practice are often not the same. So the things
Yep.
that we after having some experience, we go, well, that's just going to be out of bounds because it's going to fail, not because of some theory, but just practically people are going to take a path of least resistance. And so you just see things a little differently. And by the way, as we
Yeah.
wrap up here, I just want to tell you, being thrown in as being about the same age as the two of you, I am feeling so good right now. This is.
I was thinking the same thing about Rebecca. I'm like, she's aging me down, man. So, and I know, Rebecca, you've got to go. You've got a charity event that you got to scoot
Yeah.
off to. So we really appreciate you and your puppers joining us today and being part of the
They gave up
discussion.
and
You
went to
added a
sleep.
tremendous. Yeah, well, mine didn't. My wife, you might have seen her in the background. It's 5 o'clock plus here Eastern, so their dog food clock just went off. So got that taken care of. So,
Thanks.
but I appreciate you being here as always. So it's
Yeah,
great to chat
it's
with
been
you.
good.
So cool.
Until next
Yeah,
time.
cool. And until next time, same bat channel, same bat place. So the second Thursday of the month here on the LinkedBanker Happy Hour. If you're interested in learning more about what we're doing over on the LinkedBanker, all of our fun mentoring and mastermind stuff, check that out. Our digital agency. Neil, how can people find more information out about you?
thecorepoint.com is our website, and I've got all my YouTube channel and all that. You can find it in there. So thank you.
Cool, good deal. What was that term that you gave me for the well pump dude? The the people, the hackers, the
Oh yeah,
outliers,
the
the
Wildcatters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the
wildcatters.
oil
I
field.
expect the next time The next time you show up, I want you to have some sort of a Wildcat T-shirt on, because you already self-identified as a Wildcat. So I'm putting that on you, Ricky Bobby. So cool. But hey, thanks everybody for joining this month's happy hour. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for everybody that tossed in comments. Good to have the audience out there, and for those of you that are catching the recording, feel free to put it on your calendar for the second Thursday of the month, 5 o'clock Eastern time, and join us here for the conversation. Bring what's on your mind, have a discussion, meet some new people, enjoy some networking. We'd love to have you. So until then, enjoy your video and all your AI. Let me know how it goes. All your CEOs that you're going to be talking to through your Shushenoff Idea Exchange. Appreciate the opportunity there.